even.
We gotta do the whole Hollywood intro thing.
I'll read it. I guess people come in. Oh yeah, people are here.
Yeah, right. Hot mic.
Hi everyone. Thank you for coming. We're gonna give it a couple of minutes, but today I'll be speaking with James, the owner of the Whitaker Group, which operates a chain of retail stores, including Social Status, A Ma Maniére, APB, and Prosper. And we're going to be talking about basically how to kind of add meaning to your brand and how to run a brand that has cultural impact and is a change agent in the community. So it's going to be a fun conversation. Thank you for joining. We'll start soon. And I also want to encourage everyone to, if you have questions, please drop them in the chat. I want this to be valuable for everybody, and I'm going to try my best to keep up with the questions and ask James as we are having our conversation. So thanks everyone for joining. And I'll probably give it like one more minute and then we'll start. How are you doing today, James?
I'm good. What's good, everybody? Thank you for having me, Aria. My energy's going up as you talk, and I see people jump in, so this is good.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. No, thank you for taking the time out. James is double booked today. so so if you want to hear him talk more, go to his IG page. He has another session right after this. What's the topic of that session?
Smart money. I think we're talking about funding creative ventures. Good brother named Ash Bete. He's like hedge fund smart. It's a different kind of brain than I got. So when I got stock questions or questions about hedge funds or stuff that's like that kind of stuff, I
Yeah.
always end up talking to him, and then he wants to give the information out. So we started doing smart money together. Him and another good brother, Chris Wright. Uh, we secret stock geeks. Well, I'm a secret. They're Ash and Chris is way like they're super into it. I'm like into it, but like I'm like an econ geek, and they like stock geeks. So we geek out on that on that a little bit. It's fun.
No, that sounds interesting. And I want to remind everybody that this webinar is basically a way to promote a course that we worked really hard on, Yellowbrick, Complex, and Parsons, that James speaks in the course and gives a lot of great information in the course. And it really is how to build a brand, streetwear brand specifically, from soup to nuts, how to market, how to brand, how to buy, how to purchase, how to manufacture. So if you're interested in that course, make sure you check it out. But I think I'm going to go ahead and get started, James. Are you ready?
Let's get it.
Okay, let's go. Okay. So when you were first starting your brand, what was the original vision for it?
The original vision was just the original vision for the brand was, I don't think it was a vision for my life. It wasn't the brand. Like, you got to think, in my 24-year-old mind, I was just trying to not go to jail and trying to really figure out how to express myself and stay connected to street culture in a meaningful way while working to build something meaningful for myself. That was like the first goal, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
And then,
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
No. And I think, I mean, there's a lot of things in that, right? Because we was talking like in a pre-chat, like when you from somewhere, there's meaning to, like, the connection is meaningful, right? Because you want to do something that's like connected to your core and who you are, and you already, like, I left Pittsburgh and came to North Carolina, but I knew I could be part of any community because of the community that I came from, right? So I was looking to connect back to the same. I was looking to connect to myself, but in another place where I could do it a little more safe, right? I could do it without a gun on my waist, basically.
Mm-hmm. So you have this vision, which is basically rooted in giving yourself a better life, and a life that can kind of help you thrive and grow, but still be connected to culture and cool things. But when did you realize that you kind of had this responsibility to do more than sell product? When did that, did you always have that in the back of your mind?
Well, you always, it goes back to the, when you come from somewhere, you know, you always gotta, there's a responsibility to take people with you,
Mhm.
especially, or give them the information, right? Because like everybody got a thing, and you get on and you start to realize like, yo, you talking to your dudes about what you're doing and why. And as your careers and lives evolve, you start to give them different information about what you're doing and why. So the whole time I was giving information, but when you're not perceived to be winning,
Hmm.
no one cares about what you're saying, right? That's the other part. So you could be willing to give the information, but people only want to listen to people who they perceive that are winning. So I think I was always willing to give the information. I think there's probably a little more ears listening now.
Hmm. What is your why in a nutshell?
Um, because we don't get a real good chance, and there's too many people that's fucked up. I think
Hmm.
I think overall, I can never ever consider myself successful because there's too many people around me just that don't have chance, don't got a fair shot at it. So
Hmm.
my why is to kind of balance the playing field a bit.
Mm. Hmm.
I know I don't think in my lifetime. Somebody said to me like, you got to be willing to do legacy work that's going to live beyond you. And first I took that as a shot, as I couldn't accomplish it while I'm living. But then once I get realistic with myself, I got to realize like this is 400 years of problems we got. So I ain't gonna single handedly solve the issues of the black race, right? But
Yeah,
if I could help put some information and positive energy about out there, then I think that's probably my why.
for sure. And I mean, you started free game, which I love. And what is it? It's like a monthly, every bi-monthly. You all used to have them like every week. At the
In the pandemic, we was
Yeah,
getting busy. In the, I
yeah,
mean, we was all in the house, right? So we all needed somebody to talk to. But
right.
it started with the idea because like when I was in retail, when I first started, it's how you come in. When you shop, you go into a store, especially your local neighborhood store, you chopping it up. You got a relationship with the people who come in, right? Like they you are their confidence. So when they come in to get game from you. They come in to find out what happened last night. They come in to tell you what happened in the outfit they grabbed from you last night and who they won, the looks, all of that, right? So there's this relationship and this rapport you start to build with the community you in. And as the company evolved and continued to grow, I yearned for that experience. And I knew I was not connecting the way that I used to. And it was selfishly about me
Mm,
because I missed the contact too. And I also knew on the other side of it that I had all this valuable information that I had been off the retail floor for probably 10 years. So I was like, yo, I need to get reconnected, and shout out to Cav Chow who runs
mhm.
operation for us because he was big, 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 big. Moving from New York to Charlotte, he was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" Like he was big on like get not going, like get
Mhm.
me active.
But so a lot of the people that are listening now are young. Well, I don't know how old they are, but they're probably interested in launching something, launching a brand, launching.
Mhm.
But it's like it is hard now. And we talk about the internet a lot, but it's like, how do you build community and connect with people if you don't have a physical space?
Well, I think now it's easier than ever
Mm,
because technically speaking, um, the thing that I love about youth culture and the way it exists today, youth culture supports one another, right? So you can create a bit of a groundswell if you understand the terms. I think our generation specifically like understands the term when I mean the hustle. One plus one gets you two, two plus two gets you four, and how to double down. This generation supports one another, but I don't know if they understand the, how intentional you need to be about doubling down until you get to a space where you can actually grow. Right? I think this generation wants it to happen instantaneous, and it just doesn't happen that way. So they're not consistent. They'll start, but they don't maintain it or finish it. But I think actually, if you have a community around you where you can make mistakes and learn, what people don't want, and then what they do. Once you got something to catch, then shit, I'm here. Like you can buying at the Whitaker GRP, we pick up brands that don't sell nobody. Like if you got something that's good, it's good.
But are you looking at, are you, because that's another thing is that, and this is veering a little bit from the topic, but it's something that I know that our attendees are interested in. Because yeah, another thing about meaning, because when we talk about meaning, a lot of the times people have boiled that down to your brand is meaningful if you have 100K followers.
That don't mean shit.
so so I am curious, like, and you speak with a lot of all types of people within the industry, and I am curious, do you see that it's a popularity contest over design? I know you, how do you handle it? How do you know, look for brands that have some type of meaning, especially like young brands? Like, how are you assessing, or is it solely based on aesthetics of the brand? Like, what are you assessing?
I'm looking at a couple. Well, first, I'm looking at aesthetics first. I can't pretend, right? Something product is always king, right?
Mhm.
And then if you connect in a real way, if the brand is built on something real, right? I think we used I don't know if I used the Kendrick example in live conversation yet, but the interlude where he say, where the dude is set tripping on him, he's saying, yo, where your mama stay, where your grandma stay. When you got a foundation and it actually comes from the core and it come from something and there's real passion and care behind the brand, you could tell. And less about through the imagery, more about if you get a dope design and then you talk to the person behind it, you can tell immediately what they in it for. I generally run when someone starts talking about, yeah, I want to. They talk about they want to be um, huge tomorrow. I just like I'll give them advice, but I probably won't work with them. If someone talks to me about the process and their passion and wanting to build it the right way, it's, I'll jump right in. I'll probably help them out, build the brand for us to sell it for them, and make sure that we help fund them the right way. And we've done that for several brands.
Christopher Kites, who has a really great brand that I feel like, if y'all don't know Christopher Kites, go follow him on IG. He makes really great jewelry, but he asked a really great question. And I know you have a whole team that does buying, but he
Mhm.
talked about, are there any emerging brands that are like catching your eye? Um, his exact question is, what's some favorite up and coming brands?
It's interesting because we go and well, my favorite is one that we met the youngin from Free Game, and it's less about a brand. It's less about the brand and more about the movement. The brand's called Proud Black. Dude was
Mm,
like, yo, I got these t-shirts
mhm.
and it's called Proud Black. I'm like, you traded Proud Black is 2 words? He was like, yeah, I got it. It's my mark. And it means like I can't get it off the ground. And yo, we'll print them for you. We printed, I think we started off and gave him enough orders to get it. So that's one of my favorites, only primarily because, you know, I seen what happened. Um, from a brand perspective, I love what Eastside Golf is evolving in the golf space.
Mhm.
Everyone Pays is another one.
Mhm.
My man Garen, but what he's doing, like, yo, you got there's a ton of good brands out there. And I think when you start to think about stuff like Everyone Pays and some of the other younger brands, I like all the ones that have community and messaging around them, yo. Like if it has a connection, then it has a bit of a sweet spot for me.
For sure. Like we've been talking about that, the golf brand. What's the name of it?
Eastside Golf.
Eastside Golf. There's another brand. I hate that I'm so bad with names, so names escape me. But there's this gentleman who he is trying to like enter the tennis space. And he has a racket. I forget the name, but I love to see Black designers entering spaces that not weren't made for us, you know,
Yes.
and like these niche spaces where we have interest in everything. Our interests are, you know, far and wide. So I love to see Black designers entering those spaces.
But I'll be critical. Let me be critical right now. I'll be critical of Circle when I'll be critical of Eastside Golf at the same time I give them credit.
Okay.
when you're a young brand, don't ride the wave.
Hmm.
Understand the responsibility that you got to build the business, right? Because you only get one reputation. So as quick as I am willing to say something, right, about somebody like Eastside Golf, who has a huge opportunity because of what golf has been and what it hasn't been for Black folks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now there's opportunity for them dudes to do right by the business and do right by the brand and the opportunity. You can't come in and do no fuckboy shit, right? Because then that messes it up for the next brand. Because you look at a brother like Garen Strong from Circle of Winners, G's doing everything right. Like, but because Circle of Winners is talking about being a product of your environment and the messaging is different, right? We all know people like, people sugar tracks faster than veggies, right? So when somebody's talking real stories in real life, it makes some people uncomfortable. So it don't always check the way other mainstream brands check. But for us as our community, we got to be intentional about not just checking for the thing that got 200 million followers, yo. Like you can't be a slave to the idea that everything that Kim K does is great because yo, it's an ad, bro. Like, come on, like keep it funky with yourself. Are you a sheep or not? So the idea of building community has to be about really supporting community and using our collective power to pick the right things up, not just picking the thing up that make you look cool because the person with 200 million posted. We got to own our cool.
Mm-hmm. No, that's someone asked. No, that's a great point. And I want to hit on that again. But someone also asked, which I already know the answer to, but I'm asking you: does James only work with Black designers?
No, I work
Yes.
with. Hold on, pause. Let's get this right. I love white people. I sound like a racist right now, right? I love white people, right? No, don't think that this is about. This ain't about. I'm not anti-white. Let's get that out there. Just understand that I'm working with I'm a part of a race that's been systemically oppressed for 400 years. So pardon me if I leverage the rest of my time on Earth trying to level the playing field some. I got tons and listen, I can't get here without there's tons of white people who advocate for me every day and ask me the question, yo, what do you need to continue to push further and forward and faster? Do you need money? You need space? You need resources? What do you need? Right? I can't do the work I'm doing without those white folks. And don't ever get this messed up. White folks run the world, hence the problem, right? So ain't none of us getting nowhere without some level of white support. Don't ever get that fucked up. Excuse my language. You not cuss?
Yes, cuss.
Yeah, cool. Hey, don't ever get that fucked up. You got to know what it is, right? Yeah. We gotta tear the wall. We gotta tear the walls down in the process. So they ain't our validation though.
So that brings me to a question that I have is, so you're working with corporations, and it's like, how do you, and advice for younger brands or people, but how do you make sure that you're working with, like, you have your intentions and your goals, and then you have other people that have their intentions and their goals. So how do you make sure that you're working with companies that you all can align, that like what you're doing is meaningful? How are you able to fight for that? And you have a certain amount of leverage and power and influence. You've been in the business for a while. But say for like younger designer who's working with big corporation, it's like, should they feel comfortable coming in and say like, I need to give back? I want, the shoes to be in these neighborhoods or the shirts or whatever. Like, what's your advice for this? If you have that.
Be willing to get a bunch of no's.
Mm.
You can't want it so fast that you're willing to sell your integrity. Your integrity cannot be for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Character cannot be for sale ever. The second you put those things for sale, you're nobody. They can buy you and sell you and create you. So you got to hold the line and be exactly who you want to be, right? But understand that being that may cost you some time getting on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, because I'm consistently me, of course now where it starts to be about wow, there's this whole we got to think about what's happening with Black folks, right? When you've stood your ground the entire time, you get a moment, right? No different than Swiss Beats got a sound. Swiss Beats sound has evolved. It hasn't changed. It's evolved. So Swiss's beat, Tim's beat, the way certain people rap, people who stayed, Drake's sound has evolved, but he hasn't really changed much from who he is, right? You got to be willing to hold your ground. You got to evolve, but you can't change. You got to keep your integrity. So to answer your question, absolutely ask. If that's what you stand for and that's what you're about, you have to understand when working with big corporations. Don't ever go in a room and not understand what they need, right? It makes you a fool. You got to understand why they're in the room, right? What is it? What value can you add? What's your value add to them, right? Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, you ain't getting in the room unless there is a value add, right?
Yeah.
Because people care, but most people, corporations are not people. Let's get this straight. Let's back up. Corporations by names are formed to pay back investors. It's about money, right? Now, there's a social responsibility that we would like corporate America to have, right? And if my goal is to wrap social responsibility around business strategy and profit, right? Because if we're able to leverage our social responsibility and wrap it around our business relationship, then what's going to happen is the community we serve will win as we make money.
Yes.
And that's what we've managed, thank God, to be able to do. And we've received support from our partners to be able to be who we are and wrap our social platform around a very cool retail experiential business. But we know who our consumer is, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to support it. We're going to be proud of it.
For sure. Let me go to a couple of questions. And I think this is a question that a lot of people have. Like, any advice on how to stay motivated on the hustle of building a long-term brand when the streetwear game is so oversaturated via social? I've been grinding on a brand for a minute, years. What advice can you give for staying focused while feeling defeated?
All right. So about 4:13 today, I was ready to quit. Yo, shout out to my man, Nico Fern. He texted me and said, bro, I put in work today. You will be proud of me. I said, you know what? At this moment, I feel like quitting. He texted me back. He said, man, fight. I said, man, you know, I'm just talking. My point of saying all of that is this. All of us, maybe once a month, sometimes once a week, on really hard months, all month, right? But you got to get up and keep doing the work. The hustle is all of us. If you're not comfortable with that one-to-one relationship in the mirror and you're not able to push yourself, you already lost. The first relationship to get you over the hump is your relationship with yourself. And you got to tell yourself you're good even when everybody else think you're not, right? And even if that good is just you getting better when you're not really that good. Oh, let's make this clear. I wasn't good in the beginning, be the first person to tell you. I was connected to culture. I had an eye, right? I knew what it was like to be from where I was from. I knew what the people from where I was from, I knew what they liked.
Yeah, what they wanted, yeah.
I didn't understand how to curate it and put it all together. It took years in the business for me to be able to put it all together. And then I start realizing what my strengths were and how to connect them to the culture that I'm a part of. That's what helped, right? It was me showing up. You look at somebody like, it took me from 2004 to 2011 to get a look. You look at somebody like Ronnie, we talked about this coming in 2011, he came in and got a look, right? He was ready the moment he started. It took me 6 minutes. It took me 6 years. And you could say the market was different, New York versus North Carolina, right? And the opportunity for the entrepreneur was different. Neither's right or wrong. That makes sense.
But the one thing that also happens when people feel like they're not getting where they want when they want to get it is that they start looking at what other people are doing to get success, and maybe even start copying. What's your advice for people who feel like, okay, it's not working this way, so let me look at what the next guy is doing and doing it his way? Did that ever happen for you?
Now, master your sound. I mean, you got to be competitive, right? And in our business, it's about retail experience first, right? So you got to be competitive on a retail landscape, but then you got to ask yourself, what's your added value? And I always knew my added value was where I was from. right?
Mm.
And the fact that I don't necessarily need to live in the world to understand what I understand. I come from it, right? So somebody tell me they going out, I ain't got to go. They tell me what happened in the club, I can visualize it, right? But if you have not lived, if you haven't had that depth of experience, you can't necessarily operate that way, right? So you got to figure out what your secret sauce is or your superpower is. And it takes us years. It took me years to understand my superpower. And
Mm.
then once I understood, okay, this is what makes me uniquely different. And then it takes a few more years for you to really understand how to leverage it. And sometimes what happens is when you're in bigger cities, capital comes in and they notice your superpower before you do. And they
Mm.
start to leverage your superpower before you get a hold of it. So
Mhm.
some people end up in partnerships with bad partners or people who've taken advantage of them financially because they didn't realize their superpower. Capital did really fast and start leveraging it. And a really talented entrepreneur youngin will find themselves leveraged, at least financially, before they got a real chance to understand what it is they're great at.
Mhm. For sure. Somebody asked, and I would love to talk about this in reference to a certain drop. I know when I posted that we were chatting, a young lady was like, "Oh my God, I love the way James dropped the threes and how he like really prioritized women." So can you like run through a sneaker drop with like the story aspect, the actual drop, and how you layer that with meaning? Because Keneal, I think I'm saying your name right. Keneal Brown asked, how do you hold the balance between giving the meaning and message you want and giving the people what they want? And I actually think you have mastered that, to be honest.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I want to tell our stories,
Mm-hmm.
right? Funny, we've been held out for so long. There's been Black collaborators, right? But I think I'm one of the first that's really being intentional about telling the Black hood story. If that
Yes.
makes sense. I'm
Yeah,
not
you're
trying to tell
correct.
the Black cool story. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very comfortable speaking about my past and talking about the story and coming from the mud. So for me, I'm thinking about those stories first, right? Like if you talk about free lunch, if I was doing a dunk, I was like, when we were doing a dunk, I was like, they were like, what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, what's a nostalgic moment the youngins will get excited about? What did I get excited about when I was young? It was like, yo, eating. Like we was pissed poor, free lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody in the room that came from free lunch was like, oh shit, that's it. And then we knew the story, right? We
Mm-hmm.
knew exactly what the dunk was supposed to be because we knew the story. And
Mm-hmm.
other thing like the AJ3, we worked on the product and we knew that the product needed to connect to women. And I said, well, and once again, the story's never about me. I just understand that I lived the Black experience,
Mm-hmm.
the piss pour out the mud Black experience. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us are uniquely similar that way, right? Single parent households or just really strong Black women around you if there was a man around.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's the story first, and then making sure you bring the story and the product together,
Yes.
and making sure you're representative of the people who participate in what you're doing, making sure they can connect to the product. If you look back and you look at the retailers who sold, the dunks, look close enough, you'll see what you find, right? There's nothing that I'm going to tell you. I'm just going to say that there's a level of intent that's taken even by bigger brands when you people are willing to go on a rap for you to do the right things. It
Mm-hmm.
goes back to the comment I said earlier. If you can wrap up your strategic business plans and your strategic business goals, if you can wrap it in purpose, it's easy to bring people along.
Mm-hmm.
Did I answer the question about the story?
No, I think you did. No, I think you did. And telling that story. But then let's also talk about, if you can, like, because there's so many layers to a drop. It's like you have the design of the sneaker, then you have the storytelling. Right now, an issue that a lot of people are getting upset about is access to the sneakers.
Well,
So
go ahead.
yeah, how are you, and I know that women having access to the Jordan, the A Ma Maniére Jordan 3 that you dropped was very important. How are you considering access?
Just making sure that they get access. You can't give people answers to the test, right? Because
Yeah.
then it's just bad.
Okay.
But if you look at what we do, I mean, by letting women get it to the raffle first and
Mm-hmm.
only accepting women for X amount of time, that's more advantageous to women because most women ain't trying to go fight no raffle
No.
line with a bunch of dudes, right?
Yes.
So by giving them access to be able to come in and have an experience that's curated for them at a level, right? At least it makes it easy for them to get in and participate, right? It's that simple. Just
Right.
having intentionality around saying like, yo, we want women to be a part of what we're doing and what would be advantageous for women. And then you just go, right? I
Yeah.
think, I think, I think sometimes intentionality, there's a lot less, there's not as much intentionality as you would think that goes along with things. I think
Yeah.
people see stuff and go, oh, that was simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll see more of that going forward.
Yeah, let's hope so. Because you made it seem like it was very ABC 1, 2, 3, but sometimes it doesn't feel like that for other brands.
What here, I'll say it again. It is ABC 1, 2, 3. It's just about intentionality.
Mm-hmm. So Daniel Salinas asked, and this is what should be my main focus at day one of launching my streetwear brand?
Your main focus of, well, that's a loaded question. What are your goals?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Well, your
your,
why? Yeah.
yeah, what's your why? Because your
Mm-hmm.
why is going to dictate what your focus is. If your goal is to make money, your why looks different than if your goal is to create a strong brand or a strong narrative for your brand. And for me, if someone's going to start, I think you need to have a strong narrative for your brand. The first
Yeah.
question you asked me was what's my why,
Yeah.
and I think it was a loaded question. You knew the answer already, right? But I think the world has to understand your why, and you got to drive your message. And there's something to be said for a core logo. Look at Supreme Box logo. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we know what Supreme's why is. They're skate 100% of the time. They're unapologetically skate. They want to connect to the skate culture. They don't care about much else. I
Yeah.
think things have probably changed for them a little since then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the beginning, we knew what it was about. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say establish your why and make sure you understand who you think your consumer is, and make sure the people who you think your consumer is understand your why as well. And I'm emphasizing who you think they are, because sometimes you think you're serving like yo, we hoped the three was going to really inspire women.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea that women were going to do what they've done. That has been like an eye opener for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're intentional, then it happens. So as much as that shoe was built for women, women showed the world that they got a place, a real place in sneaker culture, because they showed up in a way that I think made everybody go. Women made the narrative. Women drove the narrative of that shoe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I say this all the time. It's the same thing with artists. It's the same thing with you. It's like, successful music artists is like, I should be able to describe who you are in a sentence. That's the same way I should be able to talk about your brand. I
Yeah.
should be able to easily say what it is in a sentence, who it represents, and who it's serving. So get that down first.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I suck at my elevator pitch, but you're right. You should be able to say it in a sentence, or if you can't win somebody over in 30 seconds, you already lost them.
Yeah. Like, yeah. People are busy, don't have time. Okay. This is a good question also from Kentel. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing y'all's names. So, when you have been building out product but are still building your brand and community, when should you begin to approach stores to carry your product? We
It
talked about
depends.
this in the course, but yeah,
Yeah,
when do you
yeah,
think?
it just depends what your goals are, right? Um, I think you need to understand either two ways. You can start with retail. If there's a strong retailer that connects to the core value system of your brand, you can start with the retailer from day one, right?
Mm,
Because those retailers can help. They can help span your message much faster than you can, because there's a ton of communities that connect with retailers around the world, right? So an amazing strategy is picking the best 10 retailers in the communities that you want to serve globally, and working with them to create and connect to your brand message. But in that moment, you still need to be doing the work to drill down who you are and why on your own channels and building your own community as well, right? So there's no right or wrong answer to what you should do first. It's really just about what tools do you have in your toolbox?
And then someone asked this question, and it's a valid question. So I'm not gonna, this is a question that I want to parlay into something else. Someone asked, how do I get celebrities to wear my clothes? Y'all, how you get celebrities to wear your clothes is you figure out who their stylists are and you DM them and you send them things or whatever. So that's a very simple thing. But I think it speaks to a bigger topic, celebrity. And I know that there have been times where you've aligned with celebrity in ways that make sense. Like you've had campaigns with T.I. and Bun B, but where do you sit with this idea of celebrity? How important do you think it is for a celebrity to be wearing said brand? You know, how do you think about celebrity in relation to you and what you do?
Okay, so first I'll give you want the industry answer first or the James answer first? There's two answers.
The James answer first.
James answer is James don't fuck with nobody that don't fuck with James.
Okay.
That's it. And it's less about, I'm not just sending someone a package in hopes that they're going to wear the package, wear what's in the package.
Yes.
If I don't connect to you one-to-one, or if I don't get really good, if I don't get even, I don't think we seeded anyone in our collection who we didn't know was truly connected to what it is that we do and why. Because if so, you're just sending them a box of things.
Yes.
Right? Because they don't understand your why or connect to your why. So they're just mindlessly wearing stuff. And don't get me wrong, a lot of celebrities mindlessly wear things the stylists tell them to wear. But that's not what I'm trying to build. Right? And I think how we move is different than how others move. So if you look at what happened with Tip when we shot him years ago for the Jordan 720, that was something that connected to Tip and Tip's people. So that was an easy conversation to have. It wasn't an ask. If I'm asking you a favor, it's already the wrong thing to do. Does that make sense? Like, I don't believe in no favors. Fair exchange ain't no robbery, right? And I don't believe in felony favors. Meaning I don't want nobody to break the law or lessen their brand to help me, right? I want to earn my way forward. Now, I think the way the industry works is celebrity, 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 hence all the paid ads, hence people acting like fools and clowns to get followers on Instagram, just so they could be an influencer to try to sell something to some mindless sheep who wants to participate in meaningless consumption.
And I really also think at the core of it, if you make, and this sounds simple, and then and I'm not gonna focus on this question a lot. Somebody said, how do you find a stylist? We live in a generation, everybody's tagged on IG. If you go to celebrity, everybody tags, everybody gives credits. It's not hard to find. But if you make good product, the celebrities will come. There are people on celebrities teams who are on IG all day looking for product for their people to wear. But anyways, okay, let's move off.
And I'll say it again. I'll add one more thing.
Go ahead.
Product is king.
Yes, make good product. Like product that's really what the focus should be.
Product
is king. Yeah. Okay.
In stories, if product is king, stories are queen.
That's a great metaphor. It's true. Okay, so Tiana asks, I am someone who will have a vision in mind and I get it down on paper. My problem is I don't shift my gears into drive. I stay neutral. I'm hesitant to lose my ideas once I put them out there. What should I apply to myself to never lose myself during my entrepreneurial process?
There's no such thing as having your idea stole. It happens to all of us, a part of the journey. You're going to have another idea. If you never act, you'll never get anywhere. So you have to get out there and make a move. Like most people don't succeed from self-sabotage. Yeah. So that's partly an act of self-sabotage.
Yeah, no, I agree. Don't be precious with your ideas. And I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyways. does James store give room or provide, yes, a platform for Black streetwear brand owners? Yes, it does. But go ahead, James. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
buying at the Whitaker GRP. Right now, we're running something called color coded.
Mm,
And what we're doing with color coded is we're looking for young Black brands to come into our network. You don't have to have anything except for good designs. We're partnering with Champion to do production. They'll do
ooh,
production for us. We'll invoice you for the product that you need, and we'll invoice us for you and pay
mm,
you, if that makes sense. And the
mm,
whole idea is just for us to help small brands. If you think about what Dover Street Market done years ago,
mm-hmm,
is they kind of ring fenced
mm,
culture to come into their basement and let it flourish.
mm,
And in our world, we've never had anyone to actually speak for us, be for us, and actually serve our community. Like if you look at I'm jealous of the Jewish community, yo. Like if you see how they stand up for one another, like yo, the Jewish community is so strong they can close schools and banks in the middle of a week and do it 2 weeks in a row because that's what that community demands. We
mm.
have to be stronger as a community that way. And a lot of the actions that you see us doing on the community side is just about unifying our voice and creating a community muscle for us to just be able to be prideful and winning together.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. And a part of that is, this is a question that I think about a lot, even though I do think that some people, okay, I'm gonna just ask this. Catherine Aria says, how do you combat charging a certain price for your goods because the quality is worth more, and coming from a background where you couldn't afford those premium goods, but still wanting to provide for your community? I think that's a question a lot of designers, particularly designers of color, struggle with.
Well, it's not a struggle, yo. Quality's quality, right? Product is queen. Product is king. It,
Yes.
it's like, yo, I'm wearing a I'm a year t-shirt right now, and it probably costs us whatever to make. In order for you to get your margin, you got to multiply to get your margin, right? But if you wrap your business in purpose, I'm also in my project still. I'm I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a flight back tomorrow to go to a funeral and see my family and my people's around me 24/7, 365. There's opportunities all the way around me. Anybody who's around me that's trying to eat can eat. It's up to you, right? So the market's going to be the market. You got to don't ever confuse the idea. There's nothing wrong with running a good business, right?
Mm, thank
Nothing
you.
wrong with
Say that.
nothing wrong with that. And that business is going to have a taste level. Like, yo, listen, there ain't nothing wrong with liking sashimi, sushi, A5 steak, trips to the Maldives, private planes and yachts.
Yes.
Nothing wrong
Yes.
with that. Do
Yes.
the work to get there, right? But at the same time, bring people along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Your exchange is not a robbery, right?
Yes.
So don't get lost in the idea that you're not supposed to want to like nice things. You just got to make sure you're bringing people along the way. That makes sense.
Yeah. Or that, I think also people think that, oh, I shouldn't charge a certain price because of this, that, and the third. If like, yeah, it's about running a good business. And yeah, I get annoyed when people ask, especially Black designers, why is your stuff so expensive? But they don't
Yeah,
ask that of your Gucci's and your Louis Vuittons, et cetera, et cetera.
no one's checking the price on a Birkin bag that's selling for 8,000 in Europe and 20,000 resale here, and there's 25 and 30 in the closets of every woman that's on Instagram, and chicks is chasing it, but then asking the same question to the Black designer, like, yo, why is your bag 300? Like, yo, you can't do that, yo, because that Birkin bag probably costs
Let's talk
significantly
about
less,
it.
yeah, significantly less to make, and you
Yes.
ain't holding them to that same account or standard.
Yes, no, for sure. Another question from Chris Kites about biggest challenge that what's been your biggest challenge that possibly took you months or years to overcome slash learn from? That's
Mm.
probably a lot of things, but what would you say?
Yeah, it just depends. It's different in different parts of my journey. It's been different things, right? I think early on it was breaking through. I smelt like the project's coming out. Like I didn't even realize how project I was. So that was the first one, getting people to see me in the right light, right? Especially in an industry that has white gatekeepers who's going to be intimidated by somebody who is ultra Black as I am, right? I even intimidate some Black folks, right?
Yes.
So then after that, it's getting companies to take you serious. Like, is this dude serious? Like, can he really hold up and stand up amongst the peers? I remember somebody told me, yeah, you good, but if you go to Atlanta, you're gonna get crushed.
Hmm.
Yeah, all right. And now, like, yo, like, I, all I've ever said and all I ever wanted was the same opportunity as my peers. And then just let the world judge, right? Like, I don't want no event. I just need equal opportunity.
No,
And,
for sure.
and the rest of it's about doing the work.
Dave Perez asked, and this is big because team building is important. And you seem to have built a really great team, Dave. And this is, what are some key positions you have that help you get this message out? Creative director, marketer, PR. How big is team? How big is your team, and how involved are you as an owner? How much free
Man,
will and trust do you have?
man, listen, I give our team all the room to do everything. They could jump off the bridge. My job is not to let them hit the water. And if they do, not to allow them to drown. Our team is clutch, and there's levels. I tell everybody on our team, no, you can't work around me if you ain't willing to work. So we have a team that's probably about 200. And I think direct people who work directly with me, probably like 4 or 5. And, and I'm tough to work with because I'm nonstop. And work-life balance don't exist in my world. I just got kids. I have kids and work. There's no off. If I'm woke, I'm working or with my kids. That's it. Right. And some people may say, James, you're crazy, you're going to burn out. But for me, team and having the right team around you, and then having the right team around that team. So we probably got 4 or 5 layers of whatever some HR person would say in our organizational chart, right? And total of 200 people, but Cav at COO, Mark at what would be CMO, if I'm using proper titles. We just brought somebody on to do controller or CFO, and like, yo, we all got a job to do, and I'm not anyone's boss. I tell my team that all the time. I'm no one's boss. If you call me boss, I'm of attitude. The work is all of our boss.
Yes. Yes. And and you always seem like you working like you you the entry level. But okay, so I want to make sure I get to questions because this is what it's about. Someone asked, okay, this is okay. Shant, Shant or Shant, I'm sorry. Nowadays, I see a lot of designers skipping the art for the sake of production. This is understandable because there's a lot of money to be made, and if you spend all day designing, you won't produce. How do you suggest to balance the effort towards marketing, selling, not innovating and designing, and the effort towards design and artistic development with your fashion brand? That's a great question, because let me tell you,
well,
that's a
listen,
good question.
think about it this way. There aren't many people. If someone has all of those as superpowers, you once somebody discover you, you out of here, right? That's the Elon Musk of fashion. I don't know many designers that have all of those superpowers. Everybody's leveraging. Virgil leveraged his connection to streetwear and Kanye.
Yes.
Call a spade, right?
Yes.
So because of that, he was able to pull his strategic levers, and then you got to see his creative genius show up later, right?
Yeah.
So it's the balance of understanding your superpower to get you in a room. Once you're in a room and you get a team around you, like, yo, having Cav on one side, Mark on one side, Chantel on the community side, all of these people that are around me give me a chance to be able to sit back and think of like some crazy shit. Because I could call and be like, yo, can we get to the moon? And then they'll be like, nah, or this is the holdup. We could, but you need somebody to help help you to dream. And that's the importance of team. But before you have that, you got to leverage your superpower. So there is no right answer to what's is because Power Moss. You look at that dude's superpower, like, yo, his production and runway shows far outweigh or carry his brand, right? And that's not no disrespect to him. The brand is incredible, right? But his shows is some like crazy insane. How he connects is like he's on Mars, right?
Yeah.
So if you're there and you're on Mars that way, then you leverage that muscle, right?
Yes.
Look at Salehi. Salehi, from a design perspective, he's on Mars, right? So you leverage his ability to be a craftsman with creating new models and being able to breathe life into new models. And then he shows his ability to tell stories and do different things, right? So each person's going to have their own secret sauce, and they're going to be able to draw and pull levers based on what their superpower is.
I love that answer. And I'll say that it reminds me of Jay-Z recently talked about having to perform after DMX, who had the crowd crying, laughing, praying. And he said, I knew he couldn't out rap me. So he spent a lot of time rapping a cappella. But I love it where it's like you lean into what's best. I love that answer because, yeah, it feels doable. Lamont asks, what's the best way to build capital for your business? Lamont should probably check out your next session.
Yeah, Lamont, jump on check out Smart Money. You can hit my social and grab the Zoom link. We're about to start talking, we're gonna talk about capital on the next one. Anybody want to talk about money? We do Smart Money once a month. We do free game once a month.
But you can give a little brief answer. Should you wait for funding or look for grants? Should you just start with one product?
Man, you better start with one product. Ain't no such thing as, listen, we're in a space now where there's more money out here than there's ever been. But that money doesn't want to take a risk on someone who isn't actionable. That money would rather overpay for someone that is actionable. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, everybody likes to see a track record of success or failure, right? Because with the track record, if somebody can understand that you failed because you didn't have capital, cool, it's easy to infuse capital. No one can understand an action. Everybody got an idea. Show me some action that supports it.
No, for sure. Andrew just asked, this is a question. Okay, on my journey, the word collab has been widely misinterpreted. How do big brand structure collabs? But for example, would Nike ever give an artist complete creative control on a collab without making changes?
No. No. I got to give Nike more credit than that. Okay. If it's within their bandwidth and they start the project with enough timeline, they'll do some, man, yo, Nike's with the shits, but you just got to get in early enough and you got to have that level of creative genius. Like, yo, there aren't many people that can build a model from the ground up, right? Like, shout out to the people like Jerry and Salehi who've been able, Kanye, who've been able to like ideate a model from ground up. It takes a different kind of person to do it. That's something that we're working on currently as well. But it takes some other, but yeah, brands will go on that journey with you.
Someone asked earlier, and I love talking about this stuff, but your references. I mean, I think we know your references, but I think somebody asked your art references for when you're telling stories, for when you're creating stories. Like, what are your references? I guess your life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived. I'm like a cat. I lived a bunch of times already, and it had the. I was about to say pleasure. I don't know early on if I thought it was a pleasure, but what was my curse early on has now become my gift.
Zach asked, what advice do you have for brands to take you seriously? It seems like we've worked with a big footwear brand, but are struggling to land more clients like them. We're a small creative agency based in Boston called No Fake Flowers. So that's a side that we haven't really talked about, like creative consulting agency.
You got to do work, yo. One thing about our industry is nobody cares about what you done yesterday. Nobody cares what it is that you think you can do. If you ain't working, you need to start working for free.
Yeah.
Because people only respect action.
Yes.
No one's talking about the idea or the Everybody got a homie that can get put on. Show me the homie that's out there doing actionable work to stay busy, and I'll
Yeah.
show you somebody that's going to find the opportunity sooner than later.
I've seen even there's this artist Mahilo who does a lot of cover art for Yachty, and he's produced like he'll produce his idea of what he thinks an artist cover should look like and post it to IG. He hasn't been hired by that artist, but it's like, yeah, people ask me all that time, like, how do I become a writer? I'm like, you have to write.
Yeah,
Like write about it. Do.
work for free.
Yes,
Listen, you can work for free and socialize it. Or if there's brand, find someone young. You want to know the best success stories? Young producer, young rapper. Because when that's why Atlanta works so well.
Yeah.
Atlanta works so well because you got all these young producers. You got studios, young producers, young writers. You see what you get there? You get a whole bunch of young, energetic music, and then a bunch of young millionaires because all the tools are there for them to work together. So when you have an agency, you got to find another young brand that you can align with and help elevate them, because while elevating them and watching them win, guess who's going to win next?
Exactly. No, for sure. I agree with that. Issa Rae talks about that, how you network on the side.
Yeah.
Network up, for sure. Amadeo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. How do you stay true to your brand when communicating on different social media platforms like Instagram versus TikTok that have their own language / engagement style? That's a specific question, but it's a good question. But do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, just be intentional about, you have to first understand what you stand for.
Yeah.
The moment you do, you'll understand how to communicate on different platforms, right?
Right.
And you know when it feels right. And sometimes, because for us, when I'm working with a team, I get to a place now where sometimes I don't see everything, right? And today I seen something that our team done, and I was like, yo, we should never do this because it's this. And they just say, okay, why? Can you give me more context? Can you show me a few examples? Bet, right? But you got to first understand and make sure, even once you properly communicate what your brand identity is to your team, and even when you got it down on paper, when it's actionable. Some people create a brand Bible, but even with having a brand Bible, an action can still fly out there and be incorrect. You just got to understand that, correct it, and move on, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Somebody asked, because a lot of people want to join the Smart Money link, and it looks like it's no longer able to register.
Mark's on here. I'll get it back up.
Okay, thank you, because I know people really want to be a part of that. There is another thing. Another question. Any more questions, guys? We're coming down to the last few minutes. Oh, I saw someone asked about how do you find manufacturers. I don't know everything about that, but I hear that a lot of young designers go on Alibaba. If you're in a certain city where you want to find manufacturers, they like hit the ground running. Complex actually has a really good story on that, written by my colleague, Lei Takanashi, that it says, is New York City the ideal place to start a brand? And it goes into a lot of how brands figure out their manufacturing, whether they're manufacturing Asia or New York or the city that they're in.
Manufacturing is not that hard anymore. There's stuff like Makers Row that exists. I don't know if they're still out there, but there's a ton of platforms out there that have manufacturers. And then now with LA, there's tons of things happening in the US, but LA, with everything that's happening in Asia right now, it's becoming difficult.
Yeah.
There's Europe. There's tons of different places. Somebody just commented, Makers Row is nice with it too. Makers Row, I remember just early on, I remember thinking like, wow, I think they charge now to be on the site, but you can go on and find all types of information. It's good for exploring.
This is one more question. It might be our last. Advice, because I think this is a good question. Advice on building an audience around my brand before selling my first product. Should I show pieces I'm working on, even if they're not going to be available?
Yeah. You got to show. Product is king and story is queen. So you got to make sure people see what it is that you're about. I mean, that's even better, right? Everybody want what they can't have, and you get a chance to kind of, that's the best part about social. You can post it and read the comments and get real feedback in person. I mean, on the spot.
For sure. And lastly, I feel like this is just, but everyone had questions. I love that. It shows people were engaged and interested. But people want to reach out to you, James. You gave a great email. Yeah, well,
I'm putting in the chat now. I'm buying at the Whitaker GRP. Even if you buying gets sold to so many of us, and the buying team might be mad at me, but send whatever there. We'll filter through it and get it to the right teams. Mark, if you're in here, please drop something in the chat, because I'm sure you got another one. Somebody put in for a creative role. Yes, we're hiring like hell right now. So if you want to be employed by the Whitaker Group and you do anything from a design side, we're looking for creatives. If you're looking to build a brand, or you want to be a part of a team that's building a brand, we got 4 or 5 different things that we're working on right now. We got a ton of things. Yeah, shit, we're opening in London soon. We got a lot happening. If you wanna rock with us, please feel free to hit us up, and we'll get back to you.
Thank you so much, James. This was, I feel like I was in a marathon because I was trying to get everybody's questions in, but that was a lot of really great information. And I think a lot of information that I hope empowers everybody. And a way that you can supplement that information is by doing the Yellowbrick, Parsons and Complex course that James is also a part of, and drops a lot of gems on that course. Because I want to get to everybody. Somebody kept asking best fashion school to go to. I don't even think it's fair to answer that. You have go to the fashion school that makes most sense for you. And you feel like it's going to, or don't go to fashion school. But yeah, take the course. No, but go to the school that makes most sense for you.
Get information, yo. I went to Edinburgh University. Nobody knows where that is, right? Mm-hmm. I was intentional about getting information that I used to execute my life. The complex course will help you get there. We got some scholarships we'll be offering too. Yes. So please check out Be Social Please, the Whitaker Group. A Ma Maniére, APP Social Status. We're definitely going to be giving out some scholarships to get into the complex class. There's a lot of dope people who have tons and tons of years of experience. And please check out all of our social platforms. We give out the game for free through all of our community platforms.
Go to James' free game sessions. They're really great. They're panelists of people working in the industry. You get one-on-one time with him. He's so generous with his time. Take advantage of the free game sessions. For sure. Yeah, it's like the information is all out there, y'all. And James is one of the most successful people in the industry. Sometimes I do wonder how that helps and hurts you, but that'll be a conversation for later. But anyways, good night, y'all.
Last thing, the link is back up if anybody wants to join Smart Money. That is going to be a good conversation, Aria, because I wonder myself too.
Yeah. But thank you, everybody. I hope that everybody found this valuable. I hope if you go to Smart Money, you also find it valuable. This will be accessible later through a private link.
Free games tomorrow night too. Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, what's the free game topic?
Free game is about empowering women tomorrow.
Perfect. I know Alicia, I think that was her name, kept talking about how hard it is to be a one-woman team. Oh. Go to that session, Alicia. Get all the information you need.
I'll give y'all another one. Free game for November. I can't say who the guests are, but like yo. Mm-hmm. Like crazy.
For sure. Thank you, everybody. James has to go. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.